Hey guys, tonight we journey back to a time when the idea of stitching a vast, untamed land together with iron rails felt almost impossible. A slow, grinding dream that demanded patience, sweat, and more endurance than most people could imagine. This is not a story of speed or glory. It is a story of repetition, of endless days that blur into one another, of hands that forget what rest feels like. It is the story of building America's first great railroad. One spike, one rail, one exhausting sunrise at a time. The morning does not arrive gently. It rarely does out here. Before the sun even crests the distant hills, the workers are already awake, though awake might not be the right word. They stir, they shift, they drag themselves out of rough wooden bunks or from the ground where they fell asleep wrapped in thin blankets. The air is cold, biting at fingers and ears, and for a few quiet moments, there is only the sound of boots scraping dirt and the low murmur of men preparing for another day that will feel exactly like the one before it. There is no rush, but there is no delay either. Everything moves with a heavy, practiced rhythm. Someone stirs a pot over a weak fire. The smell of coffee, thin, bitter, but essential, spreads slowly. Bread is passed around, sometimes hard, sometimes just enough to soften in the mouth. No one complains much. Complaining requires energy, and energy is something they have learned to conserve, because they know what is coming. By the time the sun finally rises, painting the sky in soft streaks of pale orange, the work has already begun. The land stretches endlessly in front of them. It is not welcoming. It is not forgiving. Some days it is flat and dry, where dust rises with every step and settles into clothes, into hair, into lungs. Other days it is uneven, stubborn, filled with rock that resists every strike of the hammer. And sometimes it is worse, mud that clings to boots, turning every movement into a slow, exhausting struggle. But the railroad does not care about the land. It must go forward, always forward. The process is simple, at least on paper. Clear the ground, level it, lay the wooden ties, place the iron rails, hammer in the spikes, repeat, again and again and again. At first glance, it seems almost mechanical, like something that could be done without thought. But the body disagrees. Every motion carries weight. Every lift strains muscles. Every swing of the hammer sends a vibration through the arms, into the shoulders, into the bones themselves. A man lifts a hammer. He brings it down onto a spike. The sound rings out sharp, metallic, echoing faintly across the open land. Then again, and again, he adjusts slightly, making sure the spike goes in straight. If it bends, it must be pulled out and replaced. There is no shortcut. Mistakes cost time, and time is already slipping away faster than anyone would like. Nearby, another group positions the rails. They are heavy, far heavier than they look. It takes several men to lift one into place, their movements slow and coordinated. There is no room for sudden motion. One wrong step, one miscalculation, and someone could be crushed. They do not talk much while lifting. They breathe. They strain. They set the rail down with a dull, final thud. And then the hammering begins again. Hours pass, though it is difficult to measure time out here. There are no clocks, only the slow climb of the sun and the growing weight in the body that marks the passing of each moment. Sweat replaces the morning chill. Shirts cling to backs. Hands grow rougher, tougher, but never quite immune to the pain. Blisters form, break, and form again. Some men wrap their hands in cloth. Others simply endure. There is a strange quiet to the work. Not silence, never silence, but a kind of steady, unchanging soundscape. The rhythmic pounding of hammers, the scrape of shovels, the occasional shout when something needs adjusting. It becomes almost hypnotic, a pattern that repeats until it no longer feels like individual sounds, but a single, endless hum. And in that hum, thoughts begin to drift. Some men think of home, though they try not to dwell on it too long. Memories can be dangerous out here. They soften the edges of reality, make the present feel heavier than it already is. Others think of nothing at all. They focus only on the next spike, the next rail, the next step forward, because thinking too far ahead, imagining how much more there is to build, can be overwhelming. The railroad stretches far beyond what they can see, and they know it will take months, years even. By midday, the sun is high and unforgiving. There is a pause, though it is brief. Tools are set down, backs straighten slowly, and for a few moments, the men gather in small groups. Food is simple. Bread again. Maybe some salted meat. Water that is never quite cool enough. They sit wherever they can on the ground, on stacked ties, on anything that offers even the slightest relief. No one speaks loudly. Voices remain low, conversations short, because rest is precious, and it never lasts long enough. Soon someone stands, then another. The break ends not with a signal, but with a quiet understanding. There is still light left in the day. There is still work to be done, and so they return to it. The afternoon feels longer than the morning. It always does. The body is already tired, already worn down, and yet the demands remain the same. Lift, carry, hammer, repeat. The rhythm continues, but it feels heavier now, slower, as if each movement must push through an invisible resistance. Dust sticks to sweat, forming a thin layer over skin. The sun presses down, relentless, offering no shade, no comfort. And still, the railroad moves forward, a few feet at a time, sometimes less. It is easy from a distance to imagine this work as grand, as something heroic. But up close, it is something else entirely. It is monotonous. It is exhausting. It is quiet in a way that seeps into the mind. A man might spend an entire day driving spikes, only to realize that he has done the same motion thousands of times. The exact same same motion, over and over, until it feels like the day has folded in on itself, becoming one long, continuous moment. And yet, at the end of that day, the track has only advanced a short distance, barely noticeable against the vastness of the land. But it is progress, and progress, no matter how small, is everything. As the sun begins to lower, the light softens. Shadows stretch across the ground, long and thin. The heat fades slightly, replaced by a cooler breeze that feels almost like a reward. Work slows, but it does not stop immediately. There are always a few more tasks to finish, a few more spikes to drive, a few more adjustments to make. Only when the light becomes too dim to see clearly do the tools finally come to rest. The silence that follows is different from the quiet of the day. It is deeper, heavier. The men stand for a moment, some stretching stiff backs, others simply staring at the stretch of track they have built. It does not look like much, not yet, but they know what it represents. Another day completed, another small step towards something much larger than themselves. They begin to walk back to camp, their pace slow, almost drifting. There is no urgency now, no need to rush. The fire is lit again. Food is prepared, the same as before, always the same. And as night settles in, the world changes. The endless land that felt so overwhelming during the day becomes something quieter, almost gentle under the dim light of the stars. The sky stretches wide above them, filled with more stars than most of them have ever seen. For a moment, it feels peaceful, almost. Some men talk softly, sharing small stories, fragments of their lives from before this place. Others sit in silence, too tired to speak, letting the warmth of the fire seep into their bones. And slowly, one by one, they lie down. Sleep comes quickly, not because it is comfortable, but because it is necessary. Because in just a few hours, the cycle will begin again. Another cold morning, another endless day, another stretch of land waiting to be conquered, not with speed or brilliance, but with patience, with repetition, with the quiet determination to keep going, even when every part of the body asks for rest. And somewhere in the darkness, as the last voices fade and the fire burns low, the railroad remains, silent, unfinished, waiting. The fire has barely faded when the first man wakes again. There is no clear reason, no loud sound, no sudden movement, just the quiet, persistent awareness that rest is over. The night still lingers, cool and dark, but already the rhythm of the camp begins to stir back to life. Someone coughs, someone shifts, a boot scrapes lightly against the ground, and just like that, another day begins. It feels almost identical to the last, the same slow rising, the same stiff limbs that resist movement for a few seconds too long, muscles that have not fully recovered, joints that ache in a dull, familiar way. No one expects to feel refreshed. That expectation disappeared long ago. Instead, they move because they must. The fire is coaxed back into life, its glow flickering against tired faces. Coffee is poured again, thin, dark, and necessary. The smell alone seems to wake the body, even if only slightly. Bread is passed around once more, broken into uneven pieces. There is no ceremony, no variation, just quiet consumption. The sky begins to lighten. Another sunrise approaches, and with it, the same stretch of unfinished track waiting in the distance. By the time the first rays of sunlight touch the land, the workers are already walking toward the line. Their footsteps are steady, but heavy, kicking up dust that hangs briefly in the cool air before settling again. No one needs instructions. Everyone knows their place. The tools are picked up without thought, as if they have become extensions of the body itself. Hands find their familiar grip. Shoulders adjust to the expected weight. The first movements of the day feel awkward, almost reluctant, but within minutes, the rhythm returns. Lift, set, hammer. Again, the sounds begin quietly at first, scattered and uneven. But slowly, they align into something more consistent. The ringing of metal against metal becomes steady, almost predictable. It spreads along the line, one section echoing another, until the entire worksite hums with the same repetitive energy. It is not fast work. It was never meant to be. Each section of ground demands attention. Some parts must be cleared again, even if they seemed fine the day before. Wind shifts dust. Moisture changes the soil. The land is never as stable as it appears. Men with shovels move ahead of the rails, leveling the earth. They scrape and push, adjusting the surface inch by inch. It is careful work, more precise than it looks. A slight unevenness now can cause problems later, and those problems are harder to fix once the rails are in place. Behind them, the ties are laid, one after another, each piece of wood placed carefully, spaced just right. Not too close, not too far. The spacing becomes instinctive over time, measured not with tools, but with experience. Then come the rails, always the rails, heavy, unyielding, and indifferent to the effort required to move them. A group gathers around one length of iron. They position themselves without speaking much. A nod is enough, a shared understanding. They lift. The strain is immediate. Muscles tighten, breath shortens. Boots dig into the ground for balance. The rail rises slowly, awkwardly, as if resisting the movement. For a moment, it feels like it might slip, like the weight might shift unpredictably. But it doesn't. Not today. They carry it forward, step by careful step, until it reaches its place. Then, with a controlled motion, they lower it onto the ties. A dull thud. It is set, and then the hammering begins again. Spikes are placed, one by one, held steady before being driven into the wood below. The first strike is always the most important. It sets the angle, determines whether the spike will go in cleanly or bend under pressure. A clean strike, then another, and another. The sound rings out, sharp and clear, blending into the constant rhythm of the day. Hours pass in this way, not quickly, not slowly, just steadily. Time loses its edges out here. There are no clear markers, no distinct moments that separate 1 hour from the next. The sun climbs, the shadows shorten, and the work continues without interruption. Sweat forms early today. The air feels heavier, thicker, as if holding onto the heat rather than letting it rise away. Shirts darken, hands grow slick, and the grip on tools must be adjusted more often. Still, the rhythm does not break. There is a kind of quiet discipline to it all, not enforced by shouting or strict orders, but by necessity. Everyone understands that stopping too often only makes the work feel harder. Momentum, even slow momentum, is easier to maintain than to rebuild. So they keep going, even when arms begin to feel heavy, even when backs protest with every bend, even when the sameness of it all starts to press against the mind. By the time midday arrives, the break feels both expected and insufficient. Tools are set aside again. Bodies lower themselves to the ground with a kind of relief that is almost silent. No one sighs loudly. No one celebrates the pause. It is simply accepted, taken in quietly, as if making too much of it might cause it to disappear. Food is eaten slowly. Water is rationed carefully. Some men remove their hats, wiping sweat from their foreheads before placing them back again. Others stretch, though the movements are small and cautious. Too much stretching can make the body stiff again when work resumes. A few conversations begin, but they fade quickly. There is not much new to say. The same topics return, whether distance covered, small observations about the land ahead. No one talks much about the future. It feels too far away, too uncertain. Instead, they focus on the present, on the next few hours, because that is manageable. When the break ends, it does so quietly. One man stands, then another, and just like that, the line begins to move again. The afternoon brings a different kind of fatigue. It is deeper, more settled. The body no longer resists in sharp bursts of pain, but in a steady, constant heaviness. Movements become slightly slower, slightly more deliberate. Not enough to stop progress, but enough to be noticed. A hammer swings. It lands with less force than before, so the next swing compensates, and the one after that. Adjustments are made without thinking. The body learns to conserve energy where it can, to redistribute effort across different muscles. Some men switch tasks briefly, trading a hammer for a shovel, or a shovel for lifting duty. Not because one is easier than the other, but because the change allows certain muscles to rest while others take over. It is a quiet form of survival. The land itself begins to change as the day goes on. The flat stretches give way to slightly uneven ground. Nothing dramatic, nothing that stops the work entirely, but enough to slow it. More effort is needed to level the surface. More care is required when placing the ties. Progress becomes even smaller, measured not in long stretches, but in careful, incremental steps. And yet no one stops, because stopping would mean falling behind, and falling behind means more work later. So they continue. The sun begins its slow descent. The light shifts again, softening the edges of everything it touches. Shadows grow longer, stretching across the newly laid track like quiet reminders of how much and how little has been done. By the time the day finally begins to close, the workers are moving on something close to instinct alone. The rhythm is still there, but it is quieter now, slower. Each final task is completed with care, not because of urgency, but because mistakes at the end of the day are the hardest to fix. A spike is driven, a rail is checked, a final adjustment is made. Then gradually, the tools are lowered. The work ends, not with a signal, not with a command, but with a shared understanding that there is no more light to continue. The silence that follows feels earned, heavy, complete. The men stand again, looking over what has been built. It is still just a narrow line stretching into the distance, barely noticeable against the vast landscape, but it is longer than it was yesterday, and that is enough. They turn back toward camp, their steps slower than before, their bodies carrying the weight of another completed day. Behind them, the railroad remains, quiet, unfinished. The men arrive back at camp just as the last hints of daylight fade into dusk. Fires are already smoldering in small pits, casting flickering shadows across the uneven ground. The smell of smoke mingles with the lingering dust of the day, coating the air in a dry, earthy scent. Each man moves through the camp almost mechanically, aware of the routines that must follow before rest becomes possible. Food must be prepared. Tools must be cleaned. Clothes patched where possible. Nothing is extravagant, and nothing is rushed, but every action is deliberate. Evening meals are quiet affairs. Bread, some salted meat, and occasionally a splash of water or thin broth, enough to fill the stomach, but never enough to comfort the mind. Conversation is minimal, limited to short observations or quiet encouragements. The weariness is visible in every posture, every careful movement. Some men sit around the fire with eyes half closed, staring into the flames, as if the dancing light could carry them away from exhaustion, if only for a moment. Sleep does not come instantly. The body is tired, yes, but the mind often lingers in the monotony of the day's work. Images of spikes hammered, rails lifted, and endless stretches of barren land replay in their minds, sometimes magnified, sometimes distorted. There is a strange mental exhaustion that matches the physical one, and it does not relent until the very last embers of the fire have died. And yet, despite the pain and the tedium, there is a quiet, unspoken pride among the men. Each foot of track laid is a testament to their perseverance, to their unwillingness to let the land dictate the pace of progress. Though no grand celebration marks the completion of even a single mile, there is satisfaction in the slow, steady advancement. It is a satisfaction that is almost imperceptible to outsiders, but deeply understood by those who lift the rails, drive the spikes, and endure the ceaseless rhythm. Night deepens. Stars pierce the inky sky, countless points of cold light shining down on the weary men. The sounds of the land at night are different. The whisper of wind through the grass, the occasional call of an owl, the subtle shift of the earth settling after the day's disturbance. In the darkness, the vast expanse of unbroken territory seems more overwhelming than ever, yet somehow smaller, almost intimate, under the quiet canopy of night. Blankets are drawn tightly around shoulders, and bodies curl into the uneven ground or crude bunks. Conversations fade entirely, replaced by the gentle crackle of dying embers and the soft sighs of men finally surrendering to sleep. Rest is neither deep nor long. It never can be, but it is enough to keep the cycle moving. For the railroad demands continuity, and continuity depends entirely on the endurance of those who build it. Hours pass. The camp sleeps fitfully, turning in restless cycles. The land waits outside, indifferent to their toil, indifferent to the fleeting pause of night. Trees and rocks, hills and hollows remain unchanged, unyielding, as if mocking the slow progress of human hands. Yet tomorrow they will rise again. They will repeat the motions, lift the weight, hammer the spikes, inch by inch, as though the very rhythm of life is dictated by the relentless forward movement of the rails. And then, before the first light touches the horizon, the stir begins once more. Eyes open, limbs stretch. The familiar ache spreads through muscles that never truly rest. Fires are coaxed to life. Coffee is poured. Bread is broken. Silence holds over the camp, punctuated only by the quiet, deliberate sounds of preparation. Boots scuff the ground. Tools are gathered. The air is cold, sharp, and uncompromising. By the time the sun peeks over the distant hills, the work begins again. The same motions as yesterday. The same motions as the day before that. Lift, place, hammer, repeat. The sound of metal striking wood, of feet shifting in dust, of men straining against weight and fatigue, fills the open air. It is an unbroken symphony of labor, monotonous and eternal, shaping the land one painstaking day at a time. Somewhere ahead, the rails stretch into nothingness. Beyond sight, beyond certainty, lies more land to be conquered. Obstacles will arise. Rocky ground that resists every strike, muddy stretches that cling to boots and tools, sudden shifts in weather that saps strength and patience alike. The work is never-ending, and the railroad grows slowly, stubbornly, like a living thing that refuses to be rushed. And yet, with each day, with each repetitive swing of hammer and lift of rail, the the impossible begins to take shape. The barren stretches of the wilderness are gradually transformed into lines of iron and wood, quiet yet persistent, cutting across valleys, climbing hills, and bridging rivers. No single action seems significant. No single day feels transformative, but cumulatively, the railroad advances, a testament to endurance, to patience, and to the relentless drive of human hands against the unyielding earth, even as the sun dips again, casting long shadows across the newly laid track. There is no ceremony, no applause, no grand declaration of accomplishment. The men simply lower their tools. The day ends because light fades, not because work is done. And in that quiet, unspectacular closure, there is a rhythm, a pattern, a strange comfort in knowing that tomorrow will bring more of the same. So it goes, day after day, week after week, month after month. The monotony is both punishing and sustaining. It teaches endurance, patience, and the subtle art of finding satisfaction in tiny, almost imperceptible victories. The railroad grows slowly, mile by mile, as hands grow calloused, muscles toughen, and minds adjust to the relentless repetition. There is no urgency beyond survival, no glory beyond completion. Yet somehow the work continues, unstoppable in its quiet persistence. When night finally arrives again, heavier and deeper than before, the men retreat into the camp. Fires are lit, meals prepared, stories, or the fragments of stories shared in soft tones. Blankets wrap around aching bodies. Sleep comes, a necessary respite, but never a full relief. And outside, the railroad rests silently, waiting for the sun to rise, for the rhythm to resume, for the endless, slow march of progress to continue. Each spike driven, each rail set, each step forward is small, almost invisible from a distance. Yet, when strung together over days, weeks, months, and years, they form something larger than any single man, something that endures beyond individual exhaustion, beyond fleeting lives, beyond the monotony of countless repetitive days. It is the beginning of a transformation, not only of the land, but of the nation itself. One slow, deliberate, unrelenting motion at a time. And so, as the embers die down and the night deepens, the workers sleep fitfully. The land holds its breath, and the railroad waits patient, silent, and slowly stretching ever forward into the vast, waiting wilderness. Morning comes again, almost without notice. The first light seeps over the horizon in pale streaks, and the world awakens in its own slow, deliberate rhythm. The men stir from their uneasy sleep, joints stiff, muscles sore, yet already anticipating the familiar toll of labor. There is no cheer in rising, no excitement in the day ahead, only an acceptance, almost instinctual, that the work must continue. Coffee is brewed over small, sputtering fires. Bread is broken once more. The motions are nearly automatic now, honed by weeks, perhaps months of repetition. Conversation is sparse, limited to necessary instructions or short observations. Silence is valued as much as it is unavoidable. The weight of exhaustion leaves little room for for idle chatter. By the time the sun edges fully above the hills, the line stretches ahead, long and unbroken yet incomplete, promising endless work. The men gather around their tools, forming the small units that move rails, drive spikes, and shape the earth. Movements are precise, almost rehearsed. Lift, position, hammer, repeat. It is an eternal pattern, one that leaves no room for variation and no time for reflection. The terrain shifts subtly from day to day, though not dramatically. Flat stretches give way to low rises, rocky outcroppings, and patches of stubborn earth that refuse to yield to shovels or picks. Each obstacle is met with the same methodical determination. Clear, level, reinforce, continue. Mistakes are costly, both in time and effort, and so care is paramount, even in the midst of exhaustion. Hammer strikes echo across the open landscape, forming a steady percussion that merges with the shuffle of boots and the occasional groan of laboring men. Dust rises with every step, coating clothes, hair, and skin. Sweat mixes with grime, leaving a thin crust that is never fully washed away. Yet, there is a strange, almost hypnotic rhythm to it all, a cadence that numbs the mind, even as the body protests with every motion. Breaks are short, functional, and predictable. Bread and water provide just enough fuel to endure the next stretch of labor. Conversation rarely strays beyond the immediate. Topics of home, family, or distant places are kept at bay. They are luxuries that distract from the immediate necessity of the work. Even thoughts of completion are dangerous, for the railroad seems endless, its final mile perpetually beyond reach. As the day progresses, the repetition settles deeper into the body. Muscles adapt, joints compensate, hands toughen. Movements that were once arduous become automatic, requiring less conscious effort, but no less endurance. The mind, left largely idle, drifts into a state that is part meditation, part resignation. Time becomes elastic, hours stretch and compress, losing all sharp distinctions. Occasionally, a minor accident interrupts the rhythm. A bent spike, a dropped rail, a misstep in the uneven earth. These moments break concentration briefly, but are dealt with swiftly. There is no room for prolonged complaint. Errors are corrected quietly, efficiently, and the rhythm resumes. By late afternoon, fatigue has seeped into every fiber of the body. Movements slow imperceptibly, breaths lengthen, and the sound of tools striking wood and metal becomes a softer, more laborious echo. Still, no one stops until the light diminishes beyond the point of safe work. Each completed foot of track, each hammered spike, feels insignificant in isolation. Yet collectively, it represents progress, a tangible, if painstaking, advance across the wilderness. As the sun dips toward the horizon, shadows stretch long across the landscape. The land, harsh and indifferent, now appears almost serene under the soft, golden light. The contrast between day's labor and evening calm is sharp, but fleeting. Tools are lowered, rails checked, and minor adjustments made before the final departure back to camp. Evening in camp is quiet, subdued. Fires are lit. Meals are consumed in near silence. Men move slowly, each step deliberate as exhaustion weighs heavily. Some sit staring into the flames, others stretch, others lie down without ceremony. Sleep comes again, necessary but restless, filled with dreams of repetitive hammering, the feel of rails in hands, and the unyielding expanse of land ahead. And outside the camp, the railroad waits. Silent, unfinished, stretching steadily forward into the wilderness. It does not rest. It does not judge. It simply exists, a quiet testament to the persistence of human labor, inching relentlessly toward completion, one monotonous day at a time. The cycle begins again with the next dawn. The sun rises over the same land, pale and indifferent. Men stir, fires are rekindled, bread is broken, and the line stretches forward, awaiting the same repeated, unyielding motions. Lift, place, hammer, repeat. The rhythm is eternal, both punishing and sustaining, forming the slow, unbroken heartbeat of America's first great railroad. Even as fatigue threatens to overtake both body and mind, progress persists. Each day, no matter how monotonous, leaves a faint, yet undeniable mark upon the land. The tracks inch forward, mile by mile, until what once seemed impossible begins to take form. And in that gradual, relentless advance, there is a strange, quiet triumph. Night falls again. Stars scatter across the sky. Fires die low. Men retreat into sleep, bodies aching, minds quiet, but not entirely still. Outside, the rails glint faintly in the moonlight, a silent promise of continuity, a patient line stretching ever forward into unknown distances, awaiting the relentless return of dawn, the next day of endless labor, and the repetition that slowly, inevitably, transforms wilderness into progress. The land holds its breath, the sleepers dream fitfully, and the railroad waits, patient and enduring, knowing that tomorrow the rhythm will resume. Dawn arrives again, pale and quiet, brushing the landscape with light that feels almost indifferent to the labor it will witness. The men stir in their bunks, and on the ground where they sleep, the ache in their bodies familiar enough that it is almost unnoticed. Hands that have swung hammers for months lift themselves with effort, shoulders stiff but functional. Coffee is poured. Bread is broken. Water is rationed carefully. The morning begins, just as it always does, in the same unhurried, unavoidable rhythm. The stretch of unfinished track lies before them, waiting patiently. Each section of the day is planned, almost ritualized, as the men take up their familiar positions along the line. Some lift the rails, heavy and unyielding, while others position ties and drive spikes. The motions are rehearsed, perfected through repetition, yet every swing of the hammer, every step forward, carries its own fatigue, its own small challenge. The land itself seems to resist their efforts at times. Rocky outcrops must be cleared, mud flattened, uneven earth leveled. Each obstacle, no matter how small, demands care. A single misstep could mean a bent rail or a displaced tie. And with each error, additional work is required, a subtle reminder that the wilderness yields only to persistence, not haste. The soundscape of the worksite is relentless, yet oddly hypnotic. The pounding of hammers, the scrape of shovels, the thud of rails settling into place, it all merges into a steady, mechanical rhythm that dominates the senses. It is almost impossible to distinguish one moment from the next, and the mind begins to drift into a state where the monotony becomes its own kind of companion, a steady presence in a world otherwise defined by repetition. Midday arrives. The sun climbs high, relentless in its heat. Sweat forms quickly, coats arms and backs, clings to skin and clothes. Dust from the dry earth rises with every step, filling the air with a gritty haze that sticks to the mouth and throat. The men pause briefly for bread and water, sitting wherever they can find a small measure of comfort. The conversation is minimal, the words few. There is little energy for reflection, only enough to sustain the necessary work ahead. As the afternoon stretches on, the rhythm deepens. Movements that were once difficult now come almost instinctively, the body compensating for fatigue by adjusting posture, redistributing effort. Hands roughen further, calluses forming over previous injuries. Muscles throb steadily, a dull but constant reminder of the labor that defines their days. Occasionally, the monotony is broken by minor challenges. A spike bends, a rail shifts, or the ground proves more stubborn than expected. These incidents are met with quiet efficiency, corrective actions taken immediately and without complaint. The work resumes unbroken because the railroad cannot pause for human hesitation or frustration. It only waits, patient and indifferent, for the next effort to meet it. As the sun begins to descend, shadows lengthen over the track, emphasizing the distance still to be covered. There is no grand visual mark of progress. Each day's work seems small in the vastness of the land, but cumulatively, the rail inches forward, a slow but undeniable testament to persistence. Evening in camp is subdued. Fires are lit, meals consumed in silence, bodies stretched cautiously to ease the day's strain. Eyes linger on the dying flames, reflecting both exhaustion and faint satisfaction. Sleep comes fitfully, sometimes interrupted by aches or dreams of repetitive hammering, but it is sufficient to prepare the body for the next cycle of labor. Outside the camp, the railroad waits, silent, patient, unyielding. It stretches forward into the unknown, indifferent to the human toil that shapes it day by day. And just beyond the horizon, more land awaits, ready to be transformed by the same repetitive, unrelenting rhythm. Before the first light returns, the men stir once again. Fires are rekindled, coffee brewed, bread broken, and the line stretches ahead, unchanged, and yet always evolving through the hands of those who labor upon it. Lift, place, hammer, repeat. The endless pattern continues, a quiet, persistent pulse that defines not only the construction of a railroad, but the endurance of those who undertake it. The cycle is relentless. Day bleeds into day, each one almost indistinguishable from the last. Fatigue accumulates, but is managed, patience strengthened, and the monotony endured. It is in this repetition, this slow, continuous application of effort, that progress is made. The wilderness is gradually altered, transformed by the cumulative labor of men who have learned to find meaning in the smallest increments of achievement. As sunlight fades yet again, the work concludes not with applause, but with shared understanding. Tools are lowered. Rails and spikes rest. The men walk back to camp, bodies heavy but steady, carrying with them both exhaustion and a quiet satisfaction. Night deepens, stars puncture the black sky, and sleep reclaims the exhausted. Outside, the railroad remains, patient and enduring, stretching forward into the unknown, awaiting the inevitable return of dawn and another day of endless, repetitive labor. Progress is slow, monotonous, almost imperceptible. Yet, step by step, swing by swing, mile by mile, the first great railroad of America continues to grow, a testament not to speed or grandeur, but to endurance, patience, and the unrelenting rhythm of human hands shaping the land. The pre-dawn chill bites harder now, a sharp reminder that the work does not pause for comfort. Men rise slowly, muscles stiff, and hands already aching from the previous day's labor. Fires are coaxed back to life, their weak warmth a small comfort against the cold. Coffee brews, bitter and thin, and bread is broken once more, providing sustenance that feels more ritual than nourishment. The landscape beyond the camp is quiet, vast, and seemingly endless. Yet the railroad demands their attention, inching ever forward. As the sun edges above the horizon, pale and indifferent, the familiar pattern resumes. Lift, place, hammer, repeat. Rails are aligned, spikes driven, ties laid with care. Every movement has been practiced thousands of times, yet each day brings subtle differences that demand attention. A rock hidden in the soil, a section of ground that has shifted overnight, the uneven resistance of a rail slightly warped by previous work. The body, though conditioned, must adjust constantly, learning to compensate for fatigue, pain, and the relentless monotony. The land seems unchanging, yet its subtle moods affect the work. Dust swirls with each step on dry sections, coating skin, hair, and lungs. Mud slows progress, clinging to boots and making every movement an effort. Sun beats down relentlessly on open plains, then retreats behind clouds without warning, leaving workers to adapt to sudden chill or damp. And still, the rhythm persists. The hammers strike, the shuffle of boots, the measured lifting of rails form an unbroken cadence that dominates the senses, numbing the mind even as the body strains under its repetition. By midday, fatigue is tangible. Men pause briefly, sitting wherever they can find a modicum of comfort. Bread is eaten, water sipped, and the occasional quiet comment is exchanged. But conversation is minimal. There is no energy to dwell on home, family, or distant dreams. The work ahead is all-consuming. Even small errors, a spike bent slightly, a tie misplaced, require immediate attention, consuming precious energy and testing patience. Afternoons stretch long, the sun high and oppressive. Sweat matting hair, hands raw from repeated hammering, backs aching with the day's strain, yet the motions continue with mechanical precision. Bodies adjust instinctively. Muscles shift weight, shoulders brace, and steps are measured to conserve energy. The mind drifts in a fog of repetition, thoughts dissolving into the rhythm of the work, the endless percussion of hammer striking spike, rails settling into place, boots scuffing the soil. Small victories are nearly invisible. A foot of track secured, a perfectly driven spike, a straightened rail. These accomplishments are tangible only to those who understand the slow, painstaking nature of progress. The land does not celebrate. It waits, indifferent, for the next effort to meet it. As the sun descends, shadows stretch long across the track. The men check rails, adjust ties, and complete final tasks before the diminishing light forces a stop. Tools are lowered, and they walk back to camp, their movements deliberate and measured, bodies carrying the weight of exhaustion and satisfaction alike. Evening in camp is quiet, subdued. Fires glow faintly. Meals are taken without ceremony. Men sit, stretch, or lie down, letting the day's fatigue settle into their bones. Sleep comes fitfully, restless, but necessary, often filled with visions of repetitive hammering, the feel of rails in hands, the endless expanse of land awaiting their return. Outside, the railroad lies silent, patient, and unyielding, a thin line stretching into the distance, a promise of continuity that persists regardless of human exhaustion. Tomorrow, the cycle will resume. The men will rise, fires will be lit, bread broken, and the line will stretch forward once more. Lift, place, hammer, repeat. Day follows day. The monotony is both punishing and sustaining, teaching endurance, patience, and the quiet satisfaction of incremental achievement. Progress is slow, almost imperceptible to an outside observer, but cumulative mile by mile, foot by foot, swing by swing, the railroad advances. The wilderness begins to change, shaped by persistent human hands, though the transformation is gradual, almost invisible in its early stages. Night falls, stars pierce the sky, fires die down. Sleep reclaims the men, weary and aching, and outside the railroad waits, silent, patient, stretching forward, indifferent to individual toil, yet a living testament to the quiet persistence of countless repetitive days. The land seems endless, but with each repetition, inch by inch, the first great railroad of America takes shape. It is neither swift nor glamorous. It is monotonous, relentless, and exhausting, but it endures, a slow, steady triumph of endurance, patience, and human determination. The dawn will come again, and with it, Another day of endless labor, another repetition of the pattern that has defined this monumental undertaking from the beginning. The railroad remains, waiting, stretching ever forward, unbroken and patient, as human hands continue their tireless work across the vast, unyielding wilderness. The morning breaks once more, pale and unremarkable, yet it carries with it the certainty that the work must continue. The men stir from their rough sleeping arrangements, bodies stiff and sore from the repetition of labor, hands calloused and raw in equal measure. Fires are rekindled with practiced ease, small wisps of smoke curling into the cold air. Coffee is brewed thin and bitter, and bread is broken silently. The routine is almost ritualistic now, executed with little thought. Yet each action is essential to the day ahead. The stretch of unfinished track waits patiently, indifferent to human fatigue. Rails, heavy and rigid, lie in long lines, demanding lifting, positioning, and securing. Ties are carefully placed, spikes driven with precision, and the land is prepared inch by inch. Every step is deliberate, every hammer strike measured. The rhythm is almost hypnotic, a blend of monotony and focus that numbs the mind while testing the body. The terrain is rarely forgiving. Rocky outcroppings, hidden roots, and uneven soil require constant adjustment. Each section of the line presents a new challenge, yet the men adapt, their movements precise and methodical. The work is hard, unrelenting, and often thankless, but the railroad demands consistency above all. Errors are corrected immediately, sometimes requiring hours to fix, yet these interruptions are accepted with quiet resolve. By mid-morning, sweat coats arms, backs, and foreheads. Dust rises with each movement, clinging to skin and clothing. The air is dry and heavy, carrying the subtle scent of earth and iron. Hands grip tools instinctively, muscles strain against weight, and bodies settle into a rhythm that has become almost second nature. Even in the midst of fatigue, the cadence of lift, position, hammer, repeat continues without pause. Lunch offers brief respite. Bread, sometimes accompanied by salted meat, is consumed quickly. Conversation is minimal, often limited to directions or observations about the land. The men conserve energy, understanding that the afternoon will demand as much, if not more, of their strength. There is no discussion of home or dreams. These thoughts are luxuries that cannot exist alongside the relentless task at hand. As the sun climbs high, the work intensifies. Hammer strikes echo across the plains, a steady percussion blending with the shuffle of boots and the occasional grunt of exertion. Rails are moved with careful precision, ties secured, spikes driven. Small victories, the perfect placement of a tie, a straightened rail, a spike hammered cleanly, are nearly invisible, yet they accumulate, marking slow but tangible progress. The afternoon drags on, and fatigue deepens. Movements slow imperceptibly, breaths lengthen, and the mind drifts into a fog punctuated by the mechanical rhythm of labor. Muscles compensate, bodies adjust, and instincts guide action as conscious thought recedes. Minor mishaps, a bent spike, shifted rail, or unexpected patch of uneven ground are met with quiet efficiency, corrected immediately before the pattern can be broken. As the sun begins its descent, shadows stretch long over the land. Tools are set aside carefully, rails checked, final adjustments made. The workday concludes not with fanfare, but with shared understanding. Each man walks back to camp, body heavy, steps measured, carrying both exhaustion and the faint satisfaction of incremental progress. Evening descends, and camp becomes quiet. Fires glow, meals are eaten in subdued silence, and men stretch or lie down, bodies succumbing to fatigue. Sleep comes fitfully, dreams often filled with the repetitive tasks of the day, the rhythm of hammer against spike, the weight of iron rails, the endless expanse of land awaiting their hands. Outside the camp, the railroad stretches forward, silent and patient, indifferent to human toil. It waits for the return of dawn, for the next repetition of labor, for the continuation of the monotonous, relentless cycle that is shaping wilderness into connection. Inch by inch, day bleeds into night, night into day, the monotony unbroken. Each repetition builds upon the last, and slowly, almost imperceptibly, the first great railroad of America takes shape. It is not swift, it is not glamorous. It is a testament to endurance, patience, and the quiet persistence of countless hands laboring tirelessly across unyielding terrain. With each new dawn, the cycle begins again. The men rise, fires are lit, bread is broken, and the line stretches forward once more. Lift, place, hammer, repeat. Step by step, swing by swing, mile by mile, progress endures. The land may resist, but the railroad persists, patient, silent, and unbroken, carrying the slow but steady heartbeat of human perseverance into the vast, waiting wilderness. The first light of dawn creeps slowly over the horizon, brushing the hills and plains with a pale glow. The men awaken with a familiarity that has become almost instinctual. Stiff limbs, aching muscles, and hands hardened from months of unyielding labor. There is no ceremony, no urgency beyond the necessary. Fires are rekindled, coffee brewed bitter, and thin bread broken with quiet hands. The ritual of morning repeats, each movement practiced, each motion precise, each breath measured against the day's inevitable work. The railroad stretches forward into the distance, a narrow ribbon of iron and wood carved into the earth. Its unfinished sections beckon, patient, yet relentless. Rails must be lifted, positioned, and hammered into place. Ties are laid with meticulous care, spikes driven deep into wood that has been worn and weathered by time and toil. Every action is repeated endlessly, and yet each day presents subtle variations in the ground, the weather, or the condition of materials, forcing constant adaptation. By mid-morning, sweat beads on foreheads, coats arms and backs, and dust rises with each step, coating clothes, skin, and lungs. The work continues in a steady, almost hypnotic rhythm. Lift, place, hammer, repeat. Hammers strike spikes in measured cadence. Boots scuff the earth. Rails thud into position. The repetition is exhausting, yet the monotony carries a strange kind of endurance, numbing the mind while the body continues to labor. The terrain tests the workers endlessly. Mud clings stubbornly, slowing each step. Rocky ground shifts unpredictably underfoot. Hidden roots snag tools or threaten to displace newly laid ties. Every minor error demands correction. Rails must be realigned, spikes reset, ties replaced. These setbacks are met not with frustration, but with quiet persistence. Efficiency is born from repetition. The rhythm cannot be broken. Lunch offers only a brief reprieve. Bread and water are consumed quickly, sometimes accompanied by thin slices of salted meat. Conversation is minimal, limited to necessary observations, the direction of the track, the stability of a section of ground, the next task to undertake. There is no energy for reflection, no room for idle thought. The afternoon will demand as much of the body as the morning, and every calorie, every drop of water is precious. As the sun climbs high, the heat presses down relentlessly. Sweat drips from brows, saturates clothing, and mixes with dust to form a gritty, uncomfortable film on skin. Despite exhaustion, the rhythm persists. Rails are lifted and carried. Ties are placed and secured. Spikes are hammered with steady repetition. The work is both physically punishing and mentally consuming, yet it is precise, measured, and continuous. Minor accidents occasionally break the monotony. A spike bends, a rail slips. A section of ground proves unexpectedly unstable. Corrections are made immediately, silently, efficiently. The pattern resumes. Lift, place, hammer, repeat. The monotony is unbroken, and in that unbroken repetition lies both endurance and progress. Afternoon wanes. Shadows lengthen across the rail line. The last adjustments are made. Tools are lowered, rails checked, ties reinforced. The workday concludes without fanfare. The men walk back to camp slowly, bodies aching, steps measured, carrying with them the quiet satisfaction of small, cumulative victories. Evening descends quietly. Fires glow faintly in the darkening camp. Meals are eaten, the crackle of the fire the only sound besides occasional murmured conversation. Men stretch, adjust, or lie down, preparing for sleep. The body rests, but the mind continues to churn faintly with memories of the day's work and anticipation of tomorrow's. Outside the camp, the railroad lies silent, patient, stretching forward into the wilderness. It waits for dawn, for the inevitable return of labor, for the continuation of the repetitive cycle that is slowly transforming unbroken land into connection. Step by step, spike by spike, mile by mile, progress continues. Night deepens. Stars scatter across the sky. Fires burn low. Men sleep fitfully. The land remains unchanged outwardly, yet subtly transformed by the relentless labor of human hands. The railroad endures, a quiet, unyielding testament persistence, patience, and the rhythm of repeated effort. The cycle will begin again with the next sunrise. The men will rise. Fires will be lit. Bread will be broken. The line will stretch forward once more. Lift, place, hammer, repeat. And in this endless repetition, inch by inch, swing by swing, the first great railroad of America continues to take shape, a monument to endurance and determination that moves steadily, patiently, into the vast, waiting wilderness. Progress is slow, monotonous, and exhausting, yet inevitable. The men labor on, the rails stretch further, and the rhythm of the work beats on, steady, relentless, unbroken. The first hints of light begin to creep over the horizon, softening the edges of the rugged landscape. The men awaken slowly, bodies weighted with fatigue and muscles stiff from the relentless repetition of labor. Hands, calloused and cracked, move almost instinctively to prepare for the day. Fires are coaxed into life, small flames struggling against the chill, and the bitter aroma of coffee fills the cold morning air. Bread is broken silently, chewed with minimal effort, and water is rationed carefully. There is a quiet understanding. The day ahead will demand everything, and the rhythm of work must be maintained without pause. The unfinished railroad stretches forward, a narrow ribbon of iron and wood winding into the distance, indifferent to human suffering and patient in its immensity. Rails must be lifted, positioned, and hammered into place. Ties are laid with meticulous precision, spikes driven deep into the weathered wood. Every motion is repeated endlessly, yet each day presents subtle variations. A stubborn patch of earth, a rail slightly warped from previous work, a hidden rock threatening to shift underfoot. The body adapts instinctively, muscles compensating for fatigue, hands adjusting to the irregularities of the terrain. By mid-morning, sweat beads on foreheads and soaks into clothing, dust rising with each step to coat skin, hair, and lungs. The rhythm is relentless. Lift, place, hammer, repeat. Hammers strike, boots shuffle, rails thud into position. The monotony numbs the mind even as the body strains under the weight of labor. Each action is precise, essential, and yet unglamorous, forming a quiet, unbroken cadence that dominates the senses. The terrain is a constant adversary. Mud clings to boots, making each step heavier. Rocky soil resists shovels and picks. Roots and stones threaten to displace newly laid ties. Errors are costly, requiring immediate correction. Rails realigned, spikes reset, ties replaced. But setbacks are accepted silently. Efficiency is necessary, and the rhythm cannot be broken. Lift, place, hammer, repeat. The work continues, unrelenting, molding the wilderness one incremental action at a time. Lunch is brief, utilitarian, bread, sometimes salted meat, and water consumed quickly. Conversation is minimal, focused only on necessary coordination or observation. There is no energy for nostalgia, no room for longing. Thoughts of home, of distant loved ones, are tucked away, luxuries that cannot exist in the face of relentless labor. The afternoon will demand just as much, if not more, and every movement must be conserved. As the sun climbs high, heat presses down mercilessly. Sweat and dust combine into a gritty paste that covers skin and clings to clothes. Yet the rhythm persists. Rails are lifted, ties placed, spikes hammered. Minor mishaps, a bent spike, a slipped rail, an uneven patch of ground are met with quiet efficiency, corrected immediately. The unbroken cadence resumes, almost hypnotic in its monotony. Lift, place, hammer, repeat. Afternoon drags on. Shadows lengthen as the sun tilts toward the horizon. The last adjustments are made, rails aligned, spikes checked, ties reinforced. Tools are lowered. The workday concludes quietly. The men walk back to camp, bodies aching, steps measured, carrying the faint satisfaction of progress, small victories barely visible to the eye, yet cumulative in their significance. Evening settles over the camp. Fires glow faintly. Meals are consumed in subdued silence, and men stretch or lie down, allowing exhaustion to claim them. Sleep comes fitfully, interrupted by dreams of hammer strikes and shifting rails, yet it is necessary to endure another day. Outside, the railroad lies silent and patient, a thin line stretching into the vast wilderness, waiting for the inevitability of the next dawn. The pattern continues. Day bleeds into night, night into day. Step by step, swing by swing, mile by mile, the first great railroad of America advances. It is neither swift nor glamorous. Its progress is monotonous, exhausting, and nearly imperceptible in the moment. Yet it endures, a testament to human perseverance, patience, and the quiet, steady rhythm of repeated effort. When dawn breaks again, the cycle begins anew. Men rise, fires are lit, bread is broken, and the line stretches forward. Lift, place, hammer, repeat. The wilderness yields slowly, shaped not by grandeur or spectacle, but by the relentless consistency of human hands, inch by inch, mile by mile. The railroad waits, patient and enduring, stretching steadily into the unknown, and the rhythm of labor continues, unbroken. The first rays of light stretch across the horizon, pale and hesitant, as if the world itself is reluctant to witness another day of relentless labor. The men rise slowly, their bodies weighted by fatigue and muscles stiffened from countless repetitions. Hands, calloused and scarred, move instinctively to ready fires and brew bitter coffee. Bread is broken with quiet efficiency, water rationed carefully, and the air is filled with the familiar smells of smoke, earth, and iron. There is no urgency beyond necessity. The day will demand everything, and preparation must be precise. The railroad lies before them, a thin, patient ribbon of iron and wood winding into the distance. Rails must be lifted, positioned, and hammered into place. Ties are laid with exacting care, spikes driven deep into the hardened wood. Every motion is repeated thousands of times, yet each day presents subtle variations. A hidden rock beneath the soil, a section of rail slightly warped, mud that clings stubbornly to boots. The body adapts instinctively, muscles adjusting for fatigue, hands responding to irregularities in the terrain with without conscious thought. By mid-morning, the sun climbs higher, heat pressing down relentlessly. Sweat drips from brows, coats arms and backs, mixing with dust to form a gritty paste. Lift, place, hammer, repeat. The rhythm is unbroken. Hammers strike spikes, boots shuffle, rails thud into position. The monotony numbs the mind even as the body strains, creating a hypnotic cadence that defines the work, almost independent of consciousness. The terrain is unyielding. Rocky outcroppings, uneven soil, and hidden roots constantly challenge progress. Minor mistakes, a bent spike, a misaligned tie, a displaced rail require immediate correction, consuming precious energy. Yet the men respond without complaint, almost instinctively. Efficiency is born of repetition. The work cannot pause. Lift, place, hammer, repeat. The pattern continues, unbroken and relentless. Lunch offers only a brief reprieve. Bread, salted meat if available, and water are consumed quickly. Conversation is minimal, reserved for coordination or necessary observations about the track. There is no room for longing or nostalgia. Thoughts of home are tucked away, luxuries that cannot coexist with the unyielding demands of the railroad. The afternoon stretches long and oppressive. Sweat and dust coat every inch of skin. Rails are lifted, positioned, and hammered again. Muscles throb with fatigue, yet the rhythm persists. Minor accidents, a spike bent, a rail shifted, an unexpected patch of uneven ground interrupt the work only briefly. Corrections are made efficiently, and the steady cadence resumes. Lift, place, hammer, repeat. As the sun begins its descent, shadows stretch across the freshly laid track. The last adjustments are made, rails aligned, spikes checked, ties reinforced. Tools are set aside. The men return to camp slowly, bodies heavy, steps measured, carrying the faint satisfaction of small but cumulative victories. Evening settles quietly over the camp. Fires glow in the darkness. Meals are taken in subdued silence, and men stretch or lie down, succumbing to fatigue. Sleep is restless, interrupted by dreams of repetitive hammering, shifting rails, and the vast wilderness awaiting their return. Outside, the railroad lies silent, patient, stretching forward into the unknown, awaiting the inevitability of the next dawn. The pattern endures. Day merges into night, night into day. Step by step, swing by swing, mile by mile, the first great railroad of America slowly takes form. Its progress is neither swift nor glamorous, but it persists, a testament to endurance, patience, and the quiet rhythm of repeated effort. When dawn breaks again, the cycle begins anew. Men rise. Fires are lit. Bread is broken. The line stretches forward once more. Lift, place, hammer, repeat. The wilderness yields incrementally, shaped not by spectacle, but by the relentless, steady application of human hands. The horizon remains unchanged, indifferent. Yet the work persists. Inch by inch, mile by mile, the impossible slowly becomes inevitable. Dawn arrives again, soft and pale, spilling light across the rugged terrain. The men stir from their sleep, bodies heavy with fatigue, muscles aching from countless repetitive movements. Hands, calloused and scarred, move instinctively, rekindling fires, brewing coffee, and preparing bread. The morning routine is executed with quiet efficiency, each motion familiar, each breath measured against the day's inevitable labor. There is no cheer in the rising, no excitement, only the acceptance that the work must continue. The unfinished railroad stretches forward like a patient, unyielding line across the wilderness. Rails are lifted and positioned, ties placed and aligned, spikes driven into weathered wood. Each action is repeated endlessly, yet subtle differences in terrain demand constant attention. A rock hidden beneath the soil, a patch of mud that clings stubbornly, a rail slightly warped, all require the men to adjust instinctively, muscles compensating, hands working with practiced precision. By mid-morning, the sun rises higher, pressing down with relentless heat. Sweat beads and drips, mixing with dust to coat skin and clothing. The rhythm persists. Lift, place, hammer, repeat. Hammers strike spikes with steady cadence. Boots shuffle through dirt and gravel. Rails thud into position. The monotony is exhaustive, yet strangely hypnotic, numbing the mind even as the body labors. The land itself is an adversary. Rocky outcroppings and uneven ground slow progress. Hidden roots threaten to displace ties, and every small error, a bent spike, a misaligned rail demands immediate correction. Yet the men respond with quiet determination. Efficiency and consistency are paramount. The work cannot pause. The pattern continues. Lift, place, hammer, repeat. Lunch comes briefly, utilitarian in nature. Bread, occasionally salted meat, and water consumed quickly. Conversation is minimal, limited to coordination or necessary observations. Thoughts of home, family, or distant places are tucked away. There is no room for sentiment. The work is all-consuming, and each movement matters. The afternoon stretches long and punishing. Sweat and dust cling stubbornly. The body strains as rails are lifted, ties positioned, and spikes driven again and again. Minor mishaps, a spike bends, a tie shifts, a rail settles unevenly, interrupt the rhythm briefly, but are corrected immediately. The cadence resumes. Lift, place, hammer, repeat. The repetition is relentless, forming the unbroken heartbeat of progress. As the sun tilts toward the horizon, shadows stretch across the newly laid track. The final adjustments are made, rails checked, spikes hammered tight, ties reinforced. Tools are set aside, and the men walk back to camp slowly, bodies heavy, each step deliberate. There is a quiet satisfaction in the day's accomplishments, though each victory is small, nearly invisible, yet cumulative in its effect. Evening falls. Fires glow, meals are eaten quietly, and men stretch or lie down, succumbing to exhaustion. Sleep comes fitfully, dreams often filled with hammer strikes, shifting rails, and the endless expanse of land awaiting their return. Outside, the railroad lies silent, patient, and unyielding, stretching forward into the wilderness, awaiting the inevitable dawn. The cycle continues. Day merges into night, night into day. Step by step, swing by swing, mile by mile, the first great railroad of America takes shape. Its progress is slow, monotonous, and exhausting, yet it endures. The rhythm of repeated effort persists, shaping the land incrementally with each day of unyielding labor. With each new dawn, the men rise again. Fires are lit, bread is broken, and the line stretches forward. Lift, place, hammer, repeat. Inch by inch, mile by mile, the impossible slowly becomes inevitable. The wilderness seems endless, yet human hands persist, relentless, patient, and tireless. The railroad waits for no one, yet it grows, quietly, steadily, one repetitive day at a time. The first light of a new day stretches over the horizon, painting the wilderness in faint hues of gold and gray. The men awaken slowly, bodies heavy with exhaustion from the previous day, muscles stiff from the constant, repetitive labor. Hands, hardened and scarred, move instinctively, rekindling fires, brewing bitter coffee, breaking bread with quiet efficiency. The morning routine has become almost ritual, each motion practiced, each breath measured against the relentless demands of the work ahead. There is no rush, only the steady inevitability of labor. The railroad lies ahead, a thin, patient ribbon of iron and wood stretching into the distance. Rails must be lifted and positioned with care, ties aligned and secured, spikes driven deep into weathered wood. Every action is repeated endlessly, yet subtle variations in the terrain require constant vigilance. A hidden rock beneath the soil, a patch of mud that clings stubbornly, or a slightly warped rail. Muscles and hands adjust instinctively, adapting to irregularities without conscious thought. By mid-morning, the sun climbs higher, pressing down with relentless intensity. Sweat beads and drips, mixing with dust that rises with each movement to coat skin, hair, and lungs. Lift, place, hammer, repeat. Hammers strike spikes with steady cadence. Boots shuffle across dirt and gravel. Rails thud into position. The monotony is exhausting, yet it carries a hypnotic rhythm that numbs the mind even as the body strains. The land itself presents constant challenges. Rocky ground slows progress. Hidden roots threaten to displace ties. Small errors, a bent spike, a shifted tie, a displaced rail require immediate attention. The men respond silently, efficiently, almost instinctively. Efficiency is paramount. The work cannot pause. Lift, place, hammer, repeat. Each motion, each repetition, pushes progress forward in small but cumulative increments. Lunch is brief and functional. Bread, sometimes salted meat, and water consumed quickly. Conversation is minimal, reserved for necessary coordination. Thoughts of home, of distant loved ones, are tucked away. There is no time for sentiment. The work is total, consuming body and mind alike. The afternoon stretches long and punishing. The sun beats down, sweat, and dust clings stubbornly. Rails are lifted, ties positioned, spikes driven again and again. Minor mishaps, a spike bent, a rail shifted, a section of ground uneven interrupt the rhythm only briefly, corrected immediately before the cadence resumes. Lift, place, hammer, repeat. The repetition is relentless, forming the unbroken heartbeat of the railroad's progress. As the sun tilts toward the horizon, shadows stretch across the land. Final adjustments are made. Rails checked, spikes hammered tight, ties reinforced. Tools are set aside. The men walk back to camp slowly, bodies heavy, steps deliberate. There is quiet satisfaction in the day's labor, though the victories are small, nearly invisible, yet cumulative in their effect. Evening settles quietly. Fires glow, meals are consumed in subdued silence, and men stretch or lie down, succumbing to exhaustion. Sleep comes fitfully, often filled with dreams of hammer strikes, shifting rails, and the vast, unyielding expanse awaiting their return. Outside the camp, the railroad lies silent, patient, and unyielding, stretching forward into the wilderness, awaiting the inevitability of the next dawn. The cycle continues. Day merges into night, night into day. Step by step, swing by swing, mile by mile, the first great railroad of America gradually takes shape. Its progress is slow, monotonous, and exhausting, yet enduring. The rhythm of repeated effort persists, shaping the wilderness incrementally with each passing day. With the next dawn, the men will rise again. Fires will be lit, bread broken, and the line will stretch forward once more. Lift, place, hammer, repeat. Inch by inch, mile by mile, the impossible slowly becomes inevitable. The wilderness stretches endlessly, yet human hands persist, relentless, patient, and tireless. The railroad grows, silently and steadily, propelled by the monotonous, repetitive labor that defines its creation. The pale light of dawn seeps over the horizon, casting long, thin shadows across the rugged terrain. Men stir from their rough sleeping arrangements, bodies weighted by exhaustion and sore from the repeated labor of previous days. Hands, roughened and scarred, move almost instinctively, rekindling fires, brewing thin, bitter coffee, and breaking bread with quiet efficiency. The morning routine has become second nature. Each movement is precise, each breath measured, each moment dedicated to the inevitable work ahead. There is no rush, only the steady pull of duty and repetition. The unfinished railroad stretches forward like a patient, unyielding thread woven into the wilderness. Rails are lifted, aligned, and hammered into place. Ties are carefully positioned and secured, spikes driven deep into the weathered wood. Every motion is repeated countless times, yet each day presents new challenges. A stubborn rock hidden beneath the soil, a patch of mud clinging to boots, a rail warped from previous handling. The men adjust instinctively, muscles compensating, hands reacting without thought to the subtle irregularities of the terrain. By mid-morning, the sun climbs relentlessly, pressing heat down upon the laborers. Sweat drips and mixes with dust rising from the dry earth, coating skin, hair, and clothing. The rhythm continues unbroken. Lift, place, hammer, repeat. The steady percussion of hammers striking spikes, boots shuffling across dirt, and rails thudding into place dominates the senses. Monotony blankets the mind, even as muscles ache with fatigue. The land itself is an adversary. Rocky outcrops impede progress, uneven soil tests balance, and hidden roots threaten to displace ties. Small mistakes, a bent spike, a misaligned rail, a shifted tie require immediate correction. The men respond with quiet determination, almost instinctively, efficiency guiding their hands. Lift, place, hammer, repeat. The work continues, unrelenting, shaping the wilderness with incremental precision. Lunch is brief, bread, salted meat if available, and water consumed quickly. Conversation is minimal, focused on essential coordination. Thoughts of home or distant family are tucked away. There is no room for nostalgia or distraction. The work demands total attention. The afternoon stretches long and punishing. Sweat and dust cling persistently. Rails are lifted, ties positioned, spikes hammered repeatedly. Minor mishaps, a spike bends, a tie shifts, a rail settles unevenly, interrupt the rhythm only briefly, corrected immediately. The cadence resumes, almost hypnotic. Lift, place, hammer, repeat. Each repetition pushes progress forward, slowly but undeniably. As the sun descends, shadows stretch across the landscape. The final adjustments are made, rails aligned, spikes tightened, ties reinforced. Tools are set aside. The men return to camp, bodies heavy, steps measured, carrying quiet satisfaction in the accumulation of small victories. Each day's labor is nearly invisible to the eye, yet cumulatively, it transforms the land. Evening settles over the camp. Fires glow faintly. Meals are eaten in subdued silence, and men stretch or lie down, succumbing to exhaustion. Sleep comes, fitful but necessary, often filled with dreams of hammer strikes, shifting rails, and the endless expanse awaiting their return. Outside, the railroad lies silent, patient, and unyielding, stretching forward into the wilderness, awaiting the next dawn. The cycle endures. Day merges into night, night into day. Step by step, swing by swing, mile by mile, the first great railroad of America slowly takes shape. Its progress is neither swift nor glamorous, but it persists, a testament to endurance, patience, and the quiet rhythm of repeated labor. When the next dawn comes, the men will rise. Fires will be lit, bread broken, and the line will stretch forward once more. Lift, place, hammer, repeat. Inch by inch, mile by mile, the impossible becomes inevitable. The wilderness stretches endlessly, yet human hands persist, tireless, patient, and relentless. The railroad grows, silent and steady, carried forward by the monotonous, persistent rhythm of repeated effort. The first light of morning spills across the horizon, pale and tentative, brushing the wilderness with a muted glow. The men stir from their rough sleep, bodies weighted with exhaustion, muscles stiff from the relentless repetition of previous days. Hands, hardened and calloused, move instinctively, rekindling fires, brewing bitter, thin coffee, breaking bread with quiet precision. The morning routine has become second nature. Each motion practiced, each breath measured against the day's unyielding demands. There is no excitement, no rush, only the inevitable pull of labor and repetition. The railroad stretches ahead, a narrow, patient line of iron and wood cutting through the wilderness. Rails are lifted, aligned, and hammered into place. Ties are positioned carefully, spikes driven deep into the weathered wood. Every motion is repeated endlessly, yet the landscape offers subtle differences daily. Hidden rocks beneath the soil, mud clinging stubbornly to boots, rails warped from previous handling. The men adjust instinctively, muscles compensating for fatigue, hands reacting without conscious thought. By mid-morning, the sun climbs relentlessly, pressing heat upon the workers. Sweat drips from brows, soaking arms and backs, mixing with the dust that rises with each movement. Lift, place, hammer, repeat. Hammers strike spikes with steady cadence. Boots shuffle across dirt and gravel. Rails thud into place. The monotony is exhausting, yet almost hypnotic, numbing the mind even as the body strains under its weight. The land itself challenges every effort. Rocky outcrops impede progress. Uneven soil tests balance. Hidden roots threaten to displace ties. Minor mistakes, a bent spike, a shifted tie, or a misaligned rail demand immediate correction. The men respond quietly, efficiently, almost instinctively. Lift, place, hammer, repeat. The work continues, unbroken, molding the wilderness with incremental precision. Lunch is brief and functional. Bread, sometimes salted meat, and water consumed quickly. Conversation is minimal, reserved for necessary coordination. Thoughts of home or distant family are tucked away. There is no space for nostalgia. The work requires total focus. The afternoon stretches long and punishing. The sun beats down, sweat and dust cling stubbornly. Rails are lifted, ties positioned, spikes hammered repeatedly. Minor mishaps, a spike bent, a tie shifted, a rail uneven interrupt the rhythm only briefly, corrected immediately. The cadence resumes almost hypnotically. Lift, place, hammer, repeat. Each repetition pushes progress forward, slow but relentless. As the sun tilts toward the horizon, shadows stretch across the track. Final adjustments are made. Rails checked, spikes tightened, ties reinforced. Tools are set aside. The men return to camp, bodies heavy, steps deliberate, carrying quiet satisfaction in the accumulation of small victories. The day's labor may appear invisible, yet cumulatively, it transforms the wilderness. Evening settles quietly. Fires glow, meals are eaten in subdued silence, and men stretch or lie down, succumbing to exhaustion. Sleep comes, fitful but necessary, often filled with dreams of hammering, shifting rails, and the endless expanse awaiting their hands. Outside, The railroad lies silent, patient, unyielding, stretching forward into the wilderness, waiting for the next dawn. The cycle endures. Day merges into night, night into day. Step by step, swing by swing, mile by mile, the first great railroad of America slowly takes shape. Its progress is neither swift nor glamorous, but it persists, a testament to endurance, patience, and the quiet rhythm of repeated effort. When dawn comes again, the men will rise. Fires will be lit, bread broken, and the line will stretch forward once more. Lift, place, hammer, repeat. Inch by inch, mile by mile, the impossible becomes inevitable. The wilderness stretches endlessly, yet human hands persist, tireless, patient, relentless. The railroad grows, silent and steady, propelled by the monotonous, persistent rhythm of repeated labor. The first light of a new day breaks slowly over the horizon, painting the rugged landscape in muted shades of gold and gray. The men awaken from their rough sleep, bodies heavy with fatigue, muscles stiff from endless repetition, hands roughened and scarred. They move almost instinctively, rekindling fires, brewing bitter, thin coffee, and breaking bread with quiet efficiency. Each morning is a ritual, executed with practiced precision, every movement measured against the inevitable labor ahead. There is no excitement in rising, no anticipation, only the persistent, unyielding pull of the work that must be done. The railroad stretches forward, a narrow, patient thread of iron and wood cutting into the wilderness. Rails must be lifted and positioned with care, ties aligned and secured, spikes driven deep into the weathered wood. Every motion is repeated countless times, yet each day presents subtle variations in the landscape. Hidden rocks beneath the soil, patches of stubborn mud, rails slightly warped from previous handling. The men adjust instinctively, muscles compensating for fatigue, hands responding without thought to the irregularities of the terrain. By mid-morning, the sun climbs higher, pressing heat down relentlessly. Sweat drips from brows, coats arms and backs, and mixes with the dust rising with each step. The rhythm continues unbroken. Lift, place, hammer, repeat. Hammers strike spikes with steady cadence. Boots shuffle across dirt and gravel. Rails thud into place. The monotony is exhausting, yet hypnotic, numbing the mind while the body strains under the relentless weight of labor. The land itself is a constant adversary. Rocky outcrops slow progress, uneven soil tests balance, hidden roots threaten to displace ties. Minor mistakes, a bent spike, a shifted tie, a misaligned rail require immediate correction. The men respond quietly, efficiently, almost instinctively. Lift, place, hammer, repeat. The work continues unbroken, shaping the wilderness with small, incremental precision. Lunch comes briefly, bread, occasionally salted meat, and water consumed quickly. Conversation is minimal, reserved only for essential coordination or observation. Thoughts of home or distant family are tucked away. There is no room for sentiment or distraction. the work demands full attention. The afternoon stretches long and punishing. The sun beats down, sweat and dust cling stubbornly. Rails are lifted, ties positioned, spikes hammered repeatedly. Minor mishaps, a spike bends, a tie shifts, a rail uneven interrupt the rhythm only briefly, corrected immediately before the cadence resumes. Lift, place, hammer, repeat. Each repetition pushes progress forward, slow but relentless. As the sun tilts toward the horizon, shadows stretch across the land. Final adjustments are made, rails aligned, spikes tightened, ties reinforced. Tools are set aside. The men return to camp, bodies heavy, steps deliberate, carrying quiet satisfaction in the accumulation of small victories. Each day's labor may seem invisible, yet cumulatively, it transforms the wilderness. Evening descends quietly. Fires glow, meals are eaten in subdued silence, and men stretch or lie down, succumbing to exhaustion. Sleep comes, fitful but necessary, often filled with dreams of hammer strikes, shifting rails, and the vast, unyielding expanse awaiting their return. Outside, the railroad lies silent, patient, and unyielding, stretching forward into the wilderness, awaiting the inevitability of the next dawn. The cycle endures. Day merges into night, night into day. Step by step, swing by swing, mile by mile, the first great railroad of America slowly takes shape. Its progress is neither swift nor glamorous, but it persists, a testament to endurance, patience, and the quiet rhythm of repeated effort. When dawn comes again, the men will rise. Fires will be lit, bread broken, and the line will stretch forward once more. Lift, place, hammer, repeat. Inch by inch, mile by mile, the impossible slowly becomes inevitable. The wilderness stretches endlessly, yet human hands persist, tireless, patient, relentless. The railroad grows, silent and steady, propelled by the monotonous, persistent rhythm of repeated labor. The first light of morning creeps across the horizon, soft and hesitant, touching the edges of the rugged terrain with muted gold. The men awaken from their brief, fitful sleep, bodies weighed down by exhaustion, muscles stiff from the relentless, repetitive labor of previous days. Hands, roughened and scarred, move instinctively rekindling fires, brewing bitter, thin coffee, and breaking bread with quiet efficiency. Each morning is a ritual, executed with precision, each movement measured against the labor that awaits. There is no excitement, no anticipation, only the persistent inevitability of the work. The railroad stretches forward, a narrow ribbon of iron and wood threading through the wilderness. Rails must be lifted, aligned, and hammered into place. Ties are carefully positioned, spikes driven deep into the weathered wood. Each action is repeated countless times, yet each day offers subtle differences. A hidden rock beneath the soil, a patch of mud clinging stubbornly, a slightly warped rail. The men adjust instinctively, muscles compensating for fatigue, hands responding without thought to the irregularities of the land. By mid-morning, the sun rises high, pressing heat down with unrelenting intensity. Sweat drips from brows, soaking arms and backs, mixing with the dust that rises with each movement. Lift, place, hammer, repeat. Hammers strike spikes with steady cadence. Boots shuffle across dirt and gravel. Rails thud into position. Monotony blankets the mind even as the body strains, creating a hypnotic rhythm that dominates every sense. The land itself resists progress. Rocky outcroppings slow steps, uneven soil tests balance, and hidden roots threaten to displace ties. Minor mistakes, a bent spike, a shifted tie, a misaligned rail require immediate correction. The men respond silently, efficiently, almost instinctively. Lift, place, hammer, repeat. The work continues unbroken, shaping the wilderness with incremental precision. Lunch is brief and functional. Bread, occasionally salted meat, water consumed quickly. Conversation is minimal, reserved for essential coordination. Thoughts of home or distant family are tucked away. There is no room for sentiment. The work demands total focus. The afternoon stretches long and punishing. Sweat and dust cling persistently. Rails are lifted, ties positioned, spikes hammered repeatedly. Minor mishaps, a spike bends, a tie shifts, a rail uneven interrupt the rhythm only briefly, corrected immediately. The cadence resumes almost hypnotically. Lift, place, hammer, repeat. Each repetition pushes progress forward, slow but relentless. As the sun tilts toward the horizon, shadows stretch across the newly laid track. Final adjustments are made, rails aligned, spikes tightened, ties reinforced. Tools are set aside. The men return to camp, bodies heavy, steps deliberate, carrying quiet satisfaction in the accumulation of small victories. Each day's labor may appear invisible, yet cumulatively, it transforms the wilderness. Evening settles quietly. Fires glow, meals are eaten in subdued silence, and men stretch or lie down, succumbing to exhaustion. Sleep comes fitfully necessary, often filled with dreams of hammering, shifting rails, and the vast, unyielding expanse awaiting their return. Outside, the railroad lies silent, patient, and unyielding, stretching forward into the wilderness, awaiting the inevitability of the next dawn. The cycle endures. Day merges into night, night into day. Step by step, swing by swing, mile by mile, the first great railroad of America slowly takes shape. Its progress is neither swift nor glamorous, but it persists, a testament to endurance, patience, and the quiet rhythm of repeated effort. When dawn comes again, the men will rise. Fires will be lit, bread broken, and the line will stretch forward once more. Lift, place, hammer, repeat. Inch by inch, mile by mile, the impossible slowly becomes inevitable. The wilderness stretches endlessly, yet human hands persist, tireless, patient, relentless. The railroad grows, silent and steady, propelled by the monotonous, persistent rhythm of repeated labor. The horizon slowly brightens as dawn creeps over the rugged terrain, spilling pale gold across the wilderness. The men awaken from their fitful sleep, bodies heavy with exhaustion, muscles stiff from the relentless repetition of labor. Hands, roughened and scarred, move instinctively, rekindling small fires, brewing bitter, thin coffee, and breaking bread with quiet precision. The morning routine is executed like clockwork, each motion familiar, each breath measured against the day's inevitable toil. There is no excitement, no anticipation, only the persistent, unyielding pull of work that must continue. The railroad stretches forward, a narrow, patient line of iron and wood cutting through the wilderness. Rails are lifted, aligned, and hammered into place. Ties are positioned with careful precision, spikes driven deep into the hardened wood. Every motion is repeated countless times, yet subtle variations in the landscape demand constant attention. A rock hidden beneath the soil, mud clinging stubbornly to boots, rails slightly warped from previous handling. The men adjust instinctively, muscles compensating for fatigue, hands reacting without thought to the irregularities of the terrain. By mid-morning, the sun rises high, pressing heat down with unrelenting intensity. Sweat beads on brows, soaking arms and backs, mixing with dust that rises with each movement. Lift, place, hammer, repeat. Hammers strike spikes with steady cadence. Boots shuffle across dirt and gravel. Rails thud into position. Monotony blankets the mind, even as the body strains, creating a hypnotic rhythm that dominates every sense. The land itself resists every effort. Rocky outcrops slow progress. Uneven soil tests balance. Hidden roots threaten to displace ties. Small mistakes, a bent spike, a shifted tie, a misaligned rail require immediate correction. The men respond silently, efficiently, almost instinctively. Lift, place, hammer, repeat. The work continues unbroken, shaping the wilderness with incremental precision. Lunch arrives briefly. Bread, sometimes salted meat, water consumed quickly. Conversation is minimal, reserved only for essential coordination. Thoughts of home or distant family are tucked away. There is no room for sentiment. The work demands total focus. The afternoon stretches long and punishing. Heat presses down, sweat and dust cling stubbornly. Rails are lifted, ties positioned, spikes hammered repeatedly. Minor mishaps, a spike bent, a tie shifted, a rail uneven interrupt the rhythm only briefly, corrected immediately. The cadence resumes almost hypnotically. Lift, place, hammer, repeat. Each repetition pushes progress forward, slow but relentless. As the sun tilts toward the horizon, shadows stretch across the land. Final adjustments are made. Rails aligned, spikes tightened, ties reinforced. Tools are set aside. The men return to camp, bodies heavy, steps deliberate, carrying quiet satisfaction in the accumulation of small victories. Each day's labor may appear invisible, yet cumulatively, it transforms the wilderness. Evening descends quietly. Fires glow, Meals are eaten in subdued silence, and men stretch or lie down, succumbing to exhaustion. Sleep comes, fitful but necessary, often filled with dreams of hammering, shifting rails, and the vast, unyielding expanse awaiting their hands. Outside, the railroad lies silent, patient, unyielding, stretching forward into the wilderness, awaiting the inevitability of the next dawn. The cycle endures. Day merges into night, night into day. Step by step, swing by swing, mile by mile, the first great railroad of America slowly takes shape. Its progress is neither swift nor glamorous, but it persists, a testament to endurance, patience, and the quiet rhythm of repeated effort. When dawn comes again, the men will rise. Fires will be lit, bread broken, and the line will stretch forward once more. Lift, place, hammer, repeat. Inch by inch, mile by mile, the impossible slowly becomes inevitable. The wilderness stretches endlessly, yet human hands persist, tireless, patient, relentless. The railroad grows, silent and steady, propelled by the monotonous, persistent rhythm of repeated labor. The first pale light of dawn spills across the rugged wilderness, brushing the uneven terrain with muted gold. Men stir from their brief, fitful sleep, bodies heavy from exhaustion, muscles stiff from the relentless repetition of labor. Hands, scarred and calloused, move instinctively, rekindling fires, brewing bitter, thin coffee, breaking bread with quiet precision. Each morning is a ritual, executed with careful exactness, each movement measured against the day's inevitable toil. There is no excitement, no anticipation, only the steady pull of work that must continue. The railroad stretches forward, a narrow, patient thread of iron and wood cutting through the wilderness. Rails are lifted and positioned, ties aligned and secured, spikes driven deep into the hardened wood. Every motion is repeated countless times, yet each day offers subtle variations. A hidden rock beneath the soil, mud clinging stubbornly to boots, rails slightly warped from previous handling. Muscles adjust instinctively. Hands respond without thought to the irregularities of the land. By mid-morning, the sun rises high, pressing heat down with unrelenting intensity. Sweat drips from brows, soaking arms and backs, mixing with the dust that rises with each step. Lift, place, hammer, repeat. Hammers strike spikes with steady cadence. Boots shuffle across dirt and gravel. Rails thud into position. The monotony is exhausting, yet hypnotic, numbing the mind while the body strains under relentless labor. The land itself resists progress. Rocky outcroppings slow each step, uneven soil tests balance, and hidden roots threaten to displace ties. Minor mistakes, a bent spike, a shifted tie, a misaligned rail require immediate correction. The men respond silently, efficiently, almost instinctively. Lift, place, hammer, repeat. The work continues unbroken, shaping the wilderness with incremental precision. Lunch arrives briefly. Bread, sometimes salted meat, water consumed quickly. Conversation is minimal, reserved only for essential coordination. Thoughts of home or distant family are tucked away. There is no space for sentiment. The work demands total focus. The afternoon stretches long and punishing. Sweat and dust cling stubbornly. Rails are lifted, ties positioned, spikes hammered repeatedly. Minor mishaps, a spike bends, a tie shifts, a rail uneven interrupt the rhythm only briefly, corrected immediately. The cadence resumes almost hypnotically. Lift, place, hammer, repeat. Each repetition pushes progress forward, slow but relentless. As the sun tilts toward the horizon, shadows stretch across the newly laid track. Final adjustments are made, rails aligned, spikes tightened, ties reinforced. Tools are set aside. The men return to camp, bodies heavy, steps deliberate, carrying quiet satisfaction in the accumulation of small victories. Each day's labor may appear invisible, yet cumulatively, it transforms the wilderness. Evening descends quietly. Fires glow, meals are eaten in subdued silence, and men stretch or lie down, succumbing to exhaustion. Sleep comes fitfully necessary, often filled with dreams of hammering, shifting rails, and the vast, unyielding expanse awaiting their return. Outside, the railroad lies silent, patient, unyielding, stretching forward into the wilderness, awaiting the inevitability of the next dawn. The cycle endures. Day merges into night, night into day. Step by step, swing by swing, mile by mile, the first great railroad of America slowly takes shape. Its progress is neither swift nor glamorous, but it persists, a testament to endurance, patience, and the quiet rhythm of repeated effort. When dawn comes again, the men will rise. Fires will be lit, bread broken, and the line will stretch forward once more. Lift, place, hammer, repeat. Inch by inch, mile by mile, the impossible slowly becomes inevitable. The wilderness stretches endlessly, yet human hands persist, tireless, patient, relentless. The railroad grows, silent and steady, propelled by the monotonous, persistent rhythm of repeated labor. The dawn breaks slowly, spilling pale, light over the sprawling wilderness, illuminating the iron tracks that stretch like a patient promise across the land. The men rise one final time with weary bodies, muscles screaming from days upon days of unrelenting labor, hands scarred and calloused from the endless repetitions of lifting, placing, hammering. Their motions are automatic now, second nature. Yet there is a quiet pride in each movement, each step taken toward completing what once seemed impossible. The railroad, once merely a plan drawn on paper, now threads through valleys and over hills, linking rivers and forests, defying the raw stubbornness of the untamed land. Each spike hammered, each tie laid, each rail aligned tells the story of human persistence, endurance, and the stubborn refusal to be daunted by scale or monotony. Lift, place, hammer, repeat, over and over, day after day, until miles upon miles of iron and wood stretch steadily forward, a testament to collective effort. By mid-morning, the sun burns hotter than ever, yet the rhythm of work carries on unbroken. Sweat drips, dust rises, hammers strike spikes with steady cadence. There is no rush, no fanfare, only the repetitive, enduring effort that moves this massive endeavor forward. The men work silently, each absorbed in the motion, in the tangible creation of progress. Every rail laid is a small victory. Every mile completed is proof of human will against nature's indifference. The land, which once resisted every step, now slowly yields. Rocky outcrops are crossed, stubborn roots removed, uneven soil leveled. The mistakes, the shifted ties, the bent spikes, all are corrected with quiet determination. Lift, place, hammer, repeat. This relentless repetition transforms chaos into order, wilderness into infrastructure, the impossible into reality. As the sun dips low in the sky, long shadows stretch across the tracks. The day's work ends with quiet satisfaction. The men set down their tools, backs aching, bodies heavy, hearts quietly proud. For a moment, they pause to look upon the work they have accomplished, the miles of iron stretching forward into the horizon, connecting towns, rivers, and forests, a lifeline of progress in a wild and untamed land. Evening comes. Fires glow softly in the camp. Meals are eaten in subdued silence, and the men lie down, exhausted yet fulfilled. Sleep finally arrives, deep and necessary. Dreams filled with hammers, rails, and the endless expanse of wilderness they have tamed. Outside, the railroad lies silent, patient, unyielding, stretching forward, like a quiet promise of what human effort can achieve when persistence is absolute. The cycle of labor is complete for now. The first great railroad of America stands as proof that monotony, repetition, and unrelenting determination can carve order from chaos. Step by step, swing by swing, mile by mile, the impossible became inevitable. The wilderness endures, vast and indifferent, but human hands have left an indelible mark. The railroad is more than iron and wood. It is endurance, patience, and the quiet triumph of human persistence. Lift, place, hammer, repeat. And now, finally, the rhythm slows. The tools rest. The men rest. The work continues in the world, carried forward by those who will follow. Yet the first link born of endless, patient labor remains, silent, steady, unyielding. In the end, America's first railroad is more than a path through the wilderness. It is a monument to the monotonous, the tedious, the small, repeated acts that together create something extraordinary. A testament that even the most repetitive, exhausting labor, done day after day, can shape history. And as night falls, the tracks glimmer faintly in the moonlight. A quiet reminder of the long days, the endless effort, and the unbroken rhythm that built them, one hammer strike at a time.